You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat Veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 8687.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everything 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
We're here to mark that day in history when the Allied armies joined in battle to reclaim this continent to liberty. For 4 long years, much of Europe had been under a terrible shadow. Free nations had fallen. Jews cried out in the camps. Millions cried out for liberation. Europe was enslaved, and the world prayed for its rescue. Here in Normandy, the rescue began. Here, the Allies stood and fought against tyranny in a giant undertaking unparalleled in human history. We stand on a lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. The air is soft, but 40 years ago at this moment, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men, and the air was filled with the crack of rifle fire and the roar of cannon. At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. Their mission was one of the most difficult and daring of the invasion: to climb these sheer and desolate cliffs and take out the enemy guns. The Allies had been told that some of the mightiest of these guns were here, and they would be trained on the beaches to stop the Allied advance. The Rangers looked up and saw the enemy soldiers at the edge of the cliffs shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades, and the American Rangers began to climb. They shot rope ladders over the face of these cliffs and began to pull themselves up. When one Ranger fell, another would take his place. When one rope was cut, a Ranger would grab another and begin his climb again. They climbed, shot back, and held their footing. Soon, one by one, the Rangers pulled themselves over the top, and in seizing the firm land at the top of these cliffs, they began to seize back the continent of Europe. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting,
all right, folks, good evening. This is the JandR Show. I'm one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. As much as I could sit here and listen to Reagan all day, sadly, because of show constraints, if I let that all play, we'd only have about 45 minutes of show left. So we just wanted to kind of play a little bit of that to commemorate the anniversary of D-Day. And I am, of course, joined by my usual co-host, Miss Jen. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good.
So, how are things going with you? You do anything exciting on this D-Day anniversary?
No, not exactly. I did get trolled on Twitter, but that's about it.
You got trolled on Twitter? I thought that was Dan's job. Come on, that's what I hear about all Friday.
Well, mostly his job, but every now and then it happens to some of us.
Well, I mean, that happens when you get your tweets retweeted by famous people, which rarely ever happens to me, which means I still apparently don't know how to do Twitter very well.
No, I just had, it's always the stupid stuff. I was mocking Michael Moore and his new endeavor, his website launch of Trumpet Leaks. And I was mocking that and made twitchy, so that's how that went down.
Oh, nice.
Of course, it was not any sort of serious point made or whatever.
I don't know.
I actually was being a jerk, and I said, "Say Trumpet Leaks 5 times in the dark, wearing your pea hat, clutching your framed Hillary photo, and he will no longer be POTUS."
That's actually really funny. Not to mention the fact you had me at trolling Michael Moore. That happens to be one of my pastimes.
Yes. So I don't know. Did you read about his site today?
I heard a little bit about it. Honestly, we were kind of slammed at work, so I really didn't get a chance to take much of a look at it. And then I got home, and we're still dealing with the aftermath of in-laws moving out. So it's been an interesting couple of days. But yeah, so no, I didn't really have much of a chance.
Let me read. So he published in the Huffington Post. They let him introduce it there. But let me just read this one little part. Today I'm launching Trumpet Leaks, which, by the way, lots of people had fun with, being like, Is that like adult diapers? Like what's going? This doesn't sound good. He says, I'm launching TrumpleLeaks, a site that will enable courageous whistleblowers to privately communicate with me and my team. Patriotic Americans in government, law enforcement, or the private sector with knowledge of crimes, breaches of public trust, and misconduct committed by Donald J. Trump and his associates are needed to blow the whistle in the name of protecting the United States of America from tyranny. So he launched a site that its sole purpose is to try to get people to turn on our president.
Fun times.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, any number of things. I just think it's funny to hear all these Democrats throw around the words like patriots, and I'm just like, what exactly does patriot mean in your world? Is it basically anybody that's opposed to Donald Trump in your mind? Is that a patriot? Because
right now it is.
Because there are times that I have been opposed to Donald Trump. Everybody knows that, but at this point, the lengths to which they are willing to go to try to keep things as crazy as they have been, this is insanity to me. That we still have so many on the left that are willing to do anything and everything to try to bring this man down, to the point of even giving away their own credibility just to try to get a story across. I've known that for a long time that most of the media was in the tank for the Democrats. I've known that for a very long time. But I never in a million years thought I would see anything like what we have going on today with the media and with celebrities that are involved now with all of these different movements to take down a sitting president. Do you realize how many people would have come unglued if there was all of these conservative leaning celebrities that started these groups to depose Barack Obama? Because that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about an attack on a sitting president. Last I heard, that was supposed to be treason.
Well, this encouragement of people to, go back on oaths they may have taken to breach national security, possibly, and all sorts of other things in which people expected confidentiality, and they're asking them to breach those trusts. It really doesn't matter what it's for. This is not a good thing for our republic to try to encourage people to basically tattle on this administration. It's one thing if there's really something going on and someone needs to come forward or what, but there are all sorts of checks and balances within that system to go about this in a way that is not some sort of damaging leak that may or may not be true. But I don't trust that Michael Moore, out of all of the people on this planet, would be even remotely responsible with any information that he's given. He is going to report and put out bombastic headlines. And quite frankly, who knows if they'll even corroborate some of these possible leaks they may get before making assumptions or jumping to conclusions. This has disaster written all over it. And I think it's completely irresponsible. And if the left had any credibility at all, they would want it shut down the same way. And, and I don't mean physically like shut it down, but I mean, they would want this idea of it being a good thing and encouraging people to participate in this. They would shut that down the same way that they have now shut down WikiLeaks, as something that is good for this, as not good for this country. It's just crazy to me that they think that this is a good idea.
Oh, I hate to break into the show, but I want to do this real quick. I just got notification that one of our regular listeners is currently in the hospital, so I'd like to take just a moment and send some positive vibes Ron's way. I guess he is in the hospital with an issue. We're supposed to get an update sometime tomorrow.
Oh, no. I love Ron.
Yeah, I know. I wondered why I hadn't really seen him much lately, and I guess I just finally got my answer, unfortunately. As far as I know, it's not like a major issue, but I guess it was bad enough that they did hospitalize him, so hopefully we'll get an update soon. So for everybody listening, just take a moment to say positive thoughts or prayers for our good friend Ron, who hangs out in the chat with us almost every time we're on and hasn't been here for the last couple of days, so I was starting to get, or he didn't. Now I know why. All right, so anyway, I didn't mean to break up the flow of the show, but that just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. But, back to this whole Michael Moore thing, as much as I don't really want to keep talking about this asshat. Look at who he is. Look at what he's done. Look at how many times he's been wrong. I mean, at this point, he's starting to rival Al Gore level wrong. Anybody remember where Al Gore said the ice caps would be by now? As in gone. They're now back to, levels not seen since the 1990s, but they were supposed to be gone by now. I mean, this is the stuff that we're dealing with right now. We have this entire unhinged group that is basically just like, oh my god, the world is going to end because Donald Trump is president. No, if anything, the world would have probably been more likely to end if Hillary Clinton would have gotten elected. Because let me tell you something without mentioning any names, because I promised I wouldn't. Someone that I know that is a very, very liberal person actually said to me today that he thinks that Donald Trump has done two very good things right so far. And that was when he did what he did in Syria and when he dropped the bomb in Afghanistan. Because he got the attention of ISIS and told them we weren't playing around anymore. Now look at everything that's going on in Europe, where they're still basically practicing this appeasement mentality. I mean, is there a correlation there? I'm not so sure, but I'm pretty sure that if Barack Obama was still president, they would probably be still trying to attack here. But now that they know that we're not messing with them anymore, now they're attacking everywhere else, which is fine by me because we can still wipe them off the planet. But when a liberal person can actually come to a table and sit down with me and say, you know what, there are plenty of things that he's done that I don't like, but let me tell you something that he's done that I like. And that's put us back on a strong footing as far as the rest of the world is concerned. When a liberal says that to you, then that means that struck a chord somewhere. So I don't know why people can't just give him what he's due. When he does something right, let's call him or let's talk about it. And when he does something wrong, let's call him for it. But you gotta hate him straight across the board no matter what, that's more un-American than anything else I've ever heard in my life.
Right. That it's what we've talked about before. That's like you're not sufficiently anti enough. So that must mean that you're like secretly harboring feelings of support, and that you really are a closet Trump humper or whatever, instead of like, hey, I'm taking these things at face value.
Yeah, that's too much to ask anymore, I guess. Actually taking things at face value, taking the time to evaluate them, and actually making a rational decision about what you're seeing in front of you. I guess that's not the way we're supposed to do things anymore. But as Americans, I thought that was what we were always supposed to do. Was I lied to when I was a child? Is that what it was?
They are just in outrage overload. Everything is a big deal. And here's the thing. So he hasn't even been in office 6 months yet. And I'm getting stuff today, and this is what we see all the time, but right now, Trump is using the Constitution as his toilet paper. And the sooner his tyrannical run is put to rest, the better. He's using the Constitution as his toilet paper. Exactly what has he done that has been unconstitutional that isn't at least being presented in the courts already? Please tell me. So I don't see that is such a dramatic. I mean, it's just so melodramatic. Everything is like, oh, and he doesn't. And believe me, all during the primaries, what was I saying? This guy doesn't respect the Constitution. This guy doesn't know the Constitution. I absolutely get it. But to say that he is doing things like this person said, like wiping, like using the Constitution as toilet paper, is just absurd. That there is nothing of the sort going on.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and this is the question that I ask of everybody that likes to say that type of stuff. Where was your outrage when Barack Obama was using the Constitution as toilet paper? Because I can actually cite instances where he was doing that. So far, I can't really cite anything where Trump was doing that hasn't already been potentially called into the courts and being dealt with there, and now it's up to the courts to decide. There are plenty.
I can.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can argue that there's quite a few things that he's done that are what I consider unconstitutional, but they're the same things that presidents have really been doing for the last 60 years that or even more actually, since about around the time of the New Deal, that I consider extremely unconstitutional. But that is no longer considered as such in our modern government, unfortunately. EOs can be challenged on the face of them, but the fact that there are executive orders in the numbers that there are at all, to me, is unconstitutional. But the precedence has been set and they've been upheld. So that's not something I'm going to chalk under the unconstitutional mark here.
No, exactly. Sorry, I actually just got a pop-up from one of our groups. Another friend that we know is actually starting a podcast. I'm going to have to hit them up and find out if we can run it. Nice. All right, so anyway, sorry, I keep getting distracted by shiny stuff tonight. I am so sorry. But, you know, the outrage, and honestly, I mean, we talked about this a little bit. Wow, actually, I guess Twitter just crashed. Nice, I was trying to find some stories, and it just said, sorry, something is technically wrong. Nice, okay, so anyway. We've talked about this before. One of the things that I think has been interesting as far as the selective outrage, and I had audio from that, I think, and I was going to run it last night, and I didn't do it, so let me see if I have it here, because I know I have it somewhere. Here we go. I don't think I had it loaded, but it's loaded now. So speaking of selective outrage, give a listen to this.
To get to Nebraska more. You're welcome. We'd love to have you work in the fields with us. Work in the field? That's part of that. That's Senator. I'm a house nigga. No, it's some show.
Now, for those of you who didn't recognize the voice, that was Bill Maher on a recent episode of his show on HBO, where he actually said the phrase when the sitting senator was making a joke about having him work in the fields. He blurted out, "Senator, I'm a house bleep," and it was the N-word. Funny enough, nobody's really said that much negative about it. I mean, I've seen some YouTube videos from some African-American folks that weren't real happy about it, but there's been no cry of outrage. There's been no racist chants. There's been no Whitey's at it again. There's been no down with the cracker. I mean, what, is it okay because he's a Democrat? Is that what it is?
I don't know. I'm going to be honest here, and it's something that people don't like to hear, especially when we're trying to distance ourselves from this. But in the context in which he was saying this as it was joke, funny. I mean, yeah, it was funny. It was relevant to, you know, I mean, he was relating to working in the fields as if like, wait, you're going to put like slave labor? And so then he says, no, I'm not. I don't do the field work. I do the housework. Did he need to say the word? Absolutely not. We could have gotten the point without it, but it certainly packed a punch. And that's what comedians do. I'm not excusing it. I don't think that it really needs to be a part of vocabulary at all, but the fact of the matter is that it does have a history and there are certain things that are associated with it. So I'm not defending Bill necessarily. The outrage over SAS was absolutely ridiculous, and he just got reign of hell on him, and Bill got a total pass. So that's crap. That's utter BS. But there's so many comedians, they drop that word all the time, and I'm sorry, but have you turned on popular radio? Because hip hop and R&B and rap for at least the last 15 years, they've been winning awards, dropping that every other word of their songs forever. And I get it. He's white. He's not black, blah, blah, blah. But still, it's like, why do we get to choose when we're outraged by something like that? I don't think we should.
And see, here's the thing, and this was the point that I was going to make last night, but in between technical issues and a house full of nieces, I didn't wind up getting to do my show last night. My issue isn't the fact that he said it. My issue isn't even the fact that he said it in the context it was actually funny, because it really was. I mean, he just pops up and like, what, you want me? No, you want me to go pay? No, screw you, I'll do the housework. That was funny, it really was. But here's my point. If this had been a Republican that had said this, they would have come unglued. But now you're basically getting nothing but crickets, and the Republican sitting across from him is the one that basically got tarred and feathered for being a part of the conversation, but he wasn't even the one that said it.
I know. It's so ridiculous. It's like, if you're going to get mad about the use of the N-word, get mad at the person who used it. And to focus all of the outrage on the Republican senator that's sitting across from him that went, and then moved along, it's just completely dishonest. And it's it's so typical. It's just so very typical.
Now, and I know this rule doesn't apply for us white folks, but I have listened to it unedited. He did not say ER, and I have it on very good authority from African American friends of mine. As long as they're cool with it, and you know these people, you're allowed to call them that as long as you soften the ER. It typically ends in instead of ER, and that is actually how he said it. He didn't say the way that they used to say it that makes everybody angry. He actually softened the ER. So who knows? I mean, Bill Maher's pretty popular. Maybe he's got some African-American friends that told him it was okay to say the word. Give the guy a break. I mean, the thing is,
I'm going to go ahead and say I don't recommend anybody say it, no matter in
I don't either,
what
but
fashion.
Saying, you know.
But and it's like, I don't even care about all of that. What I care about is that they've been basically mum in regards to him, and the immediate tweets and like social media backlash was targeting Ben Sass. It's just so typical, and it's so biased, and it's just intellectually dishonest and inconsistent.
Well, I mean, let's face it. Look, I'm going to be completely honest and blunt with everybody for just a minute. Human beings are biased. We all have our own biases. We all have our own points of view. There are times when people that we agree with will say things that will outrage and offend somebody else, and we'll be like, we don't see the big deal. And then somebody says something that we don't agree with, and we're like, oh my God, this person should be burned at the stake. I get it. Human beings are biased, but that's part of what we're trying to do here, is put the biases aside. So my point with all of this is the same thing you've been talking about. Where was the outrage from Maher? Because if this had been a conservative comedian that had said something like this, they would have been calling for their immediate dismissal and termination for being racist and pulling of all their sponsors and doing all this and doing all that. And to attack a person sitting across from the person that actually said it because they chuckled? I mean, come on. Look, whether you were outraged by it or not, the simple fact of the matter is, in that context, it was funny. I'm not afraid to say that, because in that context, it was funny. And it was edgy, which is what a comedian is looking for. That's what you guys pay them for. That's how they get where they are, is to push your buttons, make you think, and be so close to the edge that you're afraid they're going to fall off. Unfortunately, Kathy Griffin took a flying leap off that ledge and now is at the bottom somewhere. But, she at least tried. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I did see a lot of that kind of like, well, if that's funny, but this isn't, in regards, like, y'all crucified Kathy, but she's a comedian too. So why do you think it's okay, Bill Maher as a comedian, to say something like that while she did? I'm like, if you are really trying to compare the two things, then I'm going to go ahead and need to step away, because there is no reasoning with you. You are not a serious person.
I has a mute button for you. Goodbye.
Basically.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, it's just been interesting to watch all day. And of course, now everybody's talking about the fact that come Thursday, Comey's supposed to testify, and Donald Trump's going to die. It's going to be the end of the world as he knows it, because all of his secrets are going to come out. And honestly, one other thing real quick, because I'm kind of all over the place tonight, because I just remembered this. Was I the only one that watched Megyn Kelly on Sunday?
Oh, yeah, I did not.
You didn't? She actually had a decent interview with Putin. I mean,
I spaced. I forgot all about it. I had a long weekend.
You had one job. No, I'm just playing. It's not like we talked about it ahead of time. But no, I mean, honestly, it kind of was a show flavor of 60 Minutes. It wasn't just all her talking, and it was new stuff. And what they opened with was the interview that she recently did with Putin, where she kept trying to ask him, did you or did you not have anything to do with ruining our election? And he's like, these questions that you're asking me are preposterous, and you act as if the United States has never done these things, so why should you even be upset? I'm like, that kind of has a point.
Yeah.
As much as it sucks to admit, he actually has a point, because, we literally will go poke our nose in pretty much anybody else's election to make sure it's fair. We do it all the time.
Well, yeah, and I think, of course, it depends on what level you're talking about and if there's sort of underhanded things happening also, but simply trying to influence is, that's our president being the leader of the free world. Just even speaking about an election in another country, it could be considered, foreign influence. Because they're the most covered leader on the planet.
This is true.
That is gonna flash on every screen in every market, from here to Timbuktu. I mean, they'll translate it, all of it. They're always gonna broadcast that everywhere you go, except for maybe North Korea. But so our people have to be careful too, if we're going to go with that as being legit foreign influence.
Oh, no, they broadcast it in North Korea, too. They just still use Morse code.
That's the only way they change what they said, which is like Supreme Leader is better than everybody else, yada, yada, yada.
Well, let's not forget, these are the same people that think their Supreme Leader was birthed partly due to unicorns.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We're at the bottom of the hour. This is Jen and Rick. We'll be right back here in about 4 minutes or so.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
Hang on. All right, folks, now we're back. Now that I can find the right button. I am so sorry. I was playing around in a Twitter group while we were on commercial, and I got distracted by shiny things. So anyway, what were we talking about before I got distracted by the picture they dropped in there?
I don't even know, because I got distracted too. Oh, man. We have some very interesting friends. We'll just say that.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it on air is we just have some interesting.
They are interesting and colorful. Oh my goodness. So what else?
Well, I mean, I don't know what else you want to talk about.
Did you see how there have been Marco Rubio saying, it's just a simple tweet, so who knows what the real intent is, if he really means he wants it federally funded or not. But he said Ivanka put out a tweet that said, tomorrow, AEI Brookings released their paid family leave report. It's time to make America great for working families. And Marco Rubio tweeted, in America, no family should be forced to put off having children due to economic insecurity. At Ivanka Trump is doing important work. So, of course, this seems like he's supporting paid family leave at the federal level. Of course, it's just one tweet, so who knows if that will really be the thing. But, I mean, we've basically this is what we knew was kind of coming with the more progressive side of Trump and the side that certainly he's getting input from Ivanka on, who is very much a liberal Democrat, is federally mandated family and maternity leave policies. So I really hope Marco did not actually mean that he supports a federally funded program, but we'll have to wait and see.
No, I mean, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And honestly, I like I said, I haven't had much time to be on social media today because work's been crazy again. Every time I think we're going to slow back down, something breaks. And yeah, so anyway, but yeah, if Rubio is seriously now getting on board with the whole federally mandated and funded paternity leave and family medical leave stuff, I'm not so sure I'm going to be supporting him much in the future. Because he's young. I know at some point he plans on trying to run again if he gets on board with this stuff. I think he's going to disenfranchise most of his base. Because it doesn't do any good. It's good money after bad. It's giving government more control over things. This is the part that people that want socialism don't seem to understand. Yes, it sounds good. They put it in a nice, beautiful packaging that says, hey, so give us more control, we'll give you more free stuff, or we'll make sure you have this, or we'll make sure you have that. But the more control you give them now is the more things they can take away from you later when you piss them off. That's
not only that, but you just give them the control, and it's, like opening a floodgate. It's so hard once you create, because it's not just funding something like this, which would be like maternity leave or paid family leave. It wouldn't just be funding that. That creates a whole new department of some sort under some other heading, of course. But I mean, that means hiring people. That means having office space. That means having headers on a newsletter. That means all of these things, which cost a lot more money than just the simple funding of it. And so there you go, growing bureaucracy, the unelected portion of our government that definitely controls our everyday lives. And we can literally do nothing about it. And it can't ever go away. Once you get that in, once you establish those jobs, they are there for good. I mean, if anything, they get added to. They rarely, very, very rarely does anything that once started actually get axed.
No, exactly. And that's kind of the whole problem with it, though. I mean, if you want to know how this is going to end up, think EPA. Because when the EPA started, it was this really small group that had one federal mandate. Now they are this behemoth, or at least they are for the moment. I'm hoping the new EPA director can help with that, but we shall see. That basically started doing everything they could to overstep their purview and try to justify their own existence by putting their fingers in everybody else's pie. When we start whatever governmental bureaucracy that we are going to have to start to monitor, manage, maintain, and enforce this federally mandated and funded maternity and family medical leave. I mean, think about this from a governmental perspective. In a government agency, there are like 3 supervisors for every 1 employee. Because that's what that's what they do. Everything they do is top heavy. Because that's what you're doing. You're working to get to one of those little cush jobs where you get in office and you push papers and you really don't do too much because there's 2 other guys to watch every single guy that you're in charge of. There's at least 2 other people that have direct control over that one single person. And there's handfuls of supervisors that do nothing. We've seen it before here in Oklahoma at the state level. We literally had people that were having their budgets cut by 50, 65% because we were having budget shortfalls. And what they were doing was trimming the fat from the people that had jobs but really didn't do anything but collect a paycheck. That's what happens with government bureaucracy. The worse it is, the more it becomes ingrained, the less it actually accomplishes. You hire more and more people to do less and less work, and it's just nothing but a cash cow for somebody.
Well, yeah, and it's even worse than that. I mean, let's just even say that it's okay to have these jobs and that we can actually afford, the job aspect of it and the funding of the programs themselves. But what ends up happening, and this is just as true in DC as it even is with sometimes like major corporations, you end up with floors of office buildings empty or just basically with like that are very little used. You end up with all sorts of extra expenses and costs and that are completely unnecessary. And that's what's happened in DC too, that is also part of this like just massive overspending that we've got going on, is because you could walk. I mean, and I remember I had a friend that went. I spent some time in DC too, but I had a friend that actually went to work for a guy Texas in Congress, and but he was on a committee, and so she had to help follow him around and take notes for certain things and run errands for him and all sorts of things like that. And she said, you would not believe, like, she was just astonished at how there were entire areas and wings of buildings that had like 2 people working in them, but they're fully stocked. The AC is on, pumping through. They are being maintained for the just in case, but they're not even being fully used. And it's prime real estate. That there's all sorts of stuff like that come into play when you're talking about adding on to the government that will eventually mean, besides the fact that it's taxpayer funded anyways, and is that even necessary or constitutional, then you have the fact of, we really want these bureaucrats to be able to control our lives any more than they already do, and they're completely unelected. And then 3, what are all the other wastes that end up happening whenever you start to grow bureaucracy like that? I mean, it's just out of control, and they don't even know where to begin to cut.
Well, I mean, we see firsthand a lot of the waste. We've talked about it before on this show. It doesn't even necessarily talk about the bureaucracy, but just the waste in general. So, I mean, think about all the tens of millions of dollars that are wasted on salaries for positions that they probably don't even necessarily need to have, much less the fact that the government seems to basically do crazy things like I seem to remember them building a gas station in the Middle East, in the middle of nowhere, for millions of dollars. That was
right.
That was a not an actual gas station, but a natural gas conversion gas station. Nobody in the Middle East has those kind of cars, but let's spend $70-something million to make one of those. Sounds like a plan.
Well, and then there's also, let's put $1.8 million for this study about the speckled gecko in the blah, 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 little one area that they're maybe wanting to build a swimming pool. And then over here, let's do this. I mean, everybody remembers the bridge to nowhere. There's all sorts of stuff like that. And then the studies, oh my gosh, the federally commissioned studies on the most ridiculous things. They would just, if anybody ever had it, just Google it. Google up and look at how many studies are funded by the federal government and what their topics are. I'll have to find the link because there is a link that shows all of them. And some of them you would think, you'll think it's a joke. You absolutely will think it's a joke. It'll be like how to watercolor, Hello Kitty. It's absolutely absurd. And there are just, millions of dollars wasted on that crap.
The waste and abuse is crazy. But that's what we have to contend with, though. We have a government that seems to come on. Who doesn't remember the shrimp on a treadmill study?
Right.
These are the type of things that our government already does with our money. And yet now we want to turn that same government over to taking care of things such as our health care, such as our family and medical leave information. We want our government to run those things, to monitor them, to maintain them. They can't even run the post office properly, and we want to give them control of things that actually have life-ending consequences depending on how they are dealt with. I don't see the common sense here.
Well, there's not really any, and this is kind of one of those things that always gets liberals in a conundrum, is that on the one hand, they're like, everything is evil and awful and they can totally control our lives and it sucks so bad because the people they don't like are in office and it's just the most horrible thing ever. And then on the other hand, they're like, no, we need to let the government absolutely, the government needs to take care of all families and children. Absolutely, the government needs to take care of healthcare. Absolutely, the government has to do this and has to do that. But then they flip out when it's the other guy in power, and then it's like, he can't do that, and they shouldn't have this much control, and how dare they pass this, and so they're constantly hypocritical on it.
Oh, it just, I don't know, none of it makes any sense to me. The fact that we have all of these different people vying to basically give away our freedoms. That's ultimately what we're talking about doing at this point, because if we give over governmental control to family and medical leave, then that ultimately means that they have control over our family and medical leave, which to me seems like a really bad idea. Much like the idea of giving them control over our health care seemed like a really, really bad idea at the time to me. However, apparently the folks in D.C. didn't seem to think so, because now we've had it basically shined up real nice and turned sideways and put somewhere where the sun doesn't shine. And now even under this administration, we don't seem like we're going to be getting rid of it anytime soon, which I'm not surprised by that, because he did specifically say that he wanted socialized medicine, but nobody wanted to listen until now. So, fun time.
Yeah, I don't... Hey, I did just find one of these lists of things that the government's funded. Let me just read a couple real quick because they're crazy. So here's one. Lifestyle coaching for Senate staff. That's about $2 million a year that they can take free courses for benefits of a good night's sleep or pressure point therapy workshop. $1 million bus stop in Arlington, Virginia that has received $8 million in federal funding because they want to build 23 of them, which is basically has heated benches and sidewalks, wireless zones for personal computers, blah, 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 blah. So the federal government is paying for that. So NASA spending $3 million to go to Washington, D.C. and study one of the greatest mysteries in the universe, how Congress works.
Wait, that's kind of funny.
It's really funny, but seriously, we're spending money, and NASA is actually going to be there.
Well, you know what they're going to find?
Anyways.
It's going to be a lot like the Life on Mars trip. They're going to find nothing because Congress doesn't work. Just saying.
Well, you know that they funded solar panels. I forgot about this one. They funded federally funded solar panels at Manchester Boston Airport that they, after just a few weeks of use, they had to cover up because the glare was causing the pilots to be blind in landing.
Oh, that's priceless. That's priceless. That makes as much sense around here because they actually, about 10 miles from where I'm at, they have what they call a solar panel farm that is out right next to I-35. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's in one of the most windswept, hail-prone areas of the state. So they keep having to replace the panels anytime we have a hailstorm.
Oh, good grief. These people.
I wonder how much money we've wasted on that. You know, and here's my thought with this. Okay, so you're going to put a solar panel farm out in the middle of nowhere. So all you really need to do is make sure that the sun can still get to the panels, right? So why not put up something that is clear and see-through but can at least protect the panels, so all you're having to do is every so often replace a pane of plexiglass or whatever you're going to put around them to try to keep the hail from destroying them, because it would be cheaper to replace that, I think, than it would be the panels. But, what do I know?
Oh, man. I all of it. There's just so much waste, and there's so many kind of boneheaded moves like that just, I get it. It sounds good in theory. It seems like, well, that'll put us on, a right track here. And I am totally for conservation, and I'm for making things cheaper, especially energy costs, making them cheaper for the American people. So I'm all for finding solutions and alternative solutions to, the current way. But sometimes things just don't work, and you've got to be reasonable about it.
And here's my thing with all of that, because let's just be completely honest for a second, because you kind of hit on something. I am about finding ways to cut costs. I am about trying to find ways to make things as green as possible. But when we're wasting money because we're overdoing it, then what good does it do? I mean, you just mentioned, just in the last five minutes, we've talked about 2 different areas where we know that states have basically thrown good money after bad because they had this bright idea, hey, let's put solar panels here, but nobody thought about the fact that, hey, you're putting them right next to the runways, and the pilots are going to be blinded during certain times of the day. So now you get to cover them up, even though you spent all this money putting them in here. Or now we have OG&E crews out here every other week replacing panels in their solar farm because they didn't think to put something up to protect them from the elements that would still allow them to do their job. I mean,
and then how much is that costing, and what kind of energy is that using for them to even get there and do all that? I mean, sometimes you have to go to the benefits outweigh the costs, or is it just to make us feel good?
But that's what it is. Most of this, the green energy movement right now, is no different than the climate change movement. It is a giant redistribution scheme. Look at all of the money that the Obama administration poured into green jobs. Billions and billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
For months later, for those companies to shutter up and disappear. If they were handed billions of dollars, where did that money go? Do you know what I could do with $1 billion, much less like the $20 billion that some of these countries were given, or these companies were given? I said countries because it's a large amount of money, but just let that sink in for a second. There were companies under the presidency of Barack Obama that, because of his green jobs that eventually stepped down, even though nobody really talks about all the different scandals in the beginnings of the Obama administration versus the Trump administration, because nobody wants to talk about those anymore. But he had this grand idea of, well, we're going to put all this money into green jobs because, by God, we're going to make sure that America puts green energy first, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And billions and billions and billions of dollars were pumped into these companies just for the companies to dry up overnight and blow away. Where the hell did the money go?
Well, people really need to look into who is pushing for so much and who benefits from so much of this so-called, green energy and all of the kind of climate change ordeal that we have going on, and who gets the grants, who gets the funding, who gets the benefits. But beyond that, I was going to say it needs to be stuff that makes sense. Like, there are areas of this country where it absolutely makes sense. I recently had some friends that were living in San Diego, and they did have solar panels on their house, and it was perfect for them because of the climate there, because of what they have. It's like 85% sunshine, and then the days that aren't, there's still some sun coming through, and then there's very little tumultuous weather, and so it's the perfect place for that to happen. And they were immensely happy with it for the most part. Living in Dallas, Texas, that's not exactly the best option. Living in Seattle, Washington, that's not the best option. So we need to be able to, instead of shoving this stuff down people's throats and saying you will do this or else, we need to allow areas to adapt to what works for them.
No, exactly. But that's what used to make this country great. We allowed states to be laboratories. We allowed states to figure out on their own what energy ways best suited them, what energy ways didn't work for them, what education ways suited them, what didn't work for them. We don't have that type of stuff anymore, and a lot of it's because we have this huge centralized behemoth that you and I rail about on pretty much every single show that we now call the federal government. And that's the biggest part of the problem. I mean, we opened with part of a speech from Reagan in regards to the 40th anniversary of D-Day, which was when he gave that speech. But there's another speech of Reagan's, and those words have stayed with me for pretty much my entire life. The scariest words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Those words were important even back then because it let people understand that they had a president, I think he was actually just a presidential candidate at that time, but somebody that understood that the government should not be the end-all, be-all solution of everything in this country. That was the last thing the Founding Fathers wanted. I have to tell you, honestly, the Founding Fathers, if they were alive today, they would probably, and pardon my language for a second, but they would probably bitch slap everybody in D.C. for what they've done to this country, going all the way back to the Carter administration, probably even a little further if they could find them, because they literally have just taken everything that they worked for, everything that they bled for, everything that they fought and died for, and they've basically turned it on its head, and we've become this giant monster that nobody would recognize anymore from that time frame because we're not the country that we once were. That's part of the problem. That's what we've been trying to find a way to get back to, is what this country was founded upon, which is adherence to the Constitution and the ability and the fact that everyone is given the chance at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not a guarantee of any of those things, but the ability to go out and try to find it on your own without a government sticking their thumb on your head saying you can't go any further than where you are right now. You were born a crop farmer, you will die a crop farmer, and so will your children, because that's what they faced in Great Britain. That's what they dealt with every single day, was you were born into a caste system, you stayed in that caste, there was no way out of it. This country didn't have any of that stuff, but we do now, because we've let it start creeping in over here, and it's bad. Sorry, ranty.
No, absolutely. There's not a whole lot to add to that.
Well, I guess that's actually a good thing, because believe it or not, we are just about officially out of time. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently tonight, so after we say our goodbyes, we're going to roll the commercials, and I'm going to go right straight into America Off the Rails, because I've realized I've been losing about 15 minutes shutting things down and bringing them back up again, and it's kind of easier for me to edit it after the fact, because I have to edit anyway. So, as we do every time on the way out the door, why don't you remind folks where it is that they can hang out with you when you are not on the radio hanging out with me?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at jholmstead. I'm on Facebook, JR Homestead, and check out misfitspolitics.com.
And, of course, you can find me at AOTR_host, and I am on every Monday through Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern on America Off the Rails, every Sunday and Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern for Jen and Rick, the one you're listening to right now. And Friday nights we do Robinson and Wright, same time slot as America Off the Rails. And on that note, folks, we are going to get ready to get out of here, only so I can get loaded up and start the next one. So stay tuned here just after the commercials. I'll be back with you live for America Off the Rails. For our Tuesday show, which will technically kind of be our Monday show because I didn't do one last night. But we'll get that going for you here in just about 6 minutes or so. Don't go away. Stay tuned. We will be right back.